channel Dating Around the World. Today we are in Japan! I know you guessed it because I'm wearing a kimono and right behind me is the pagoda. Join me on this episode of Dating Around the World in Japan. Join me on this journey as we explore the cultural intricacies of dating in Japan. In this episode, we delve into the captivating world of relationships. We will explore the fusion of tradition and modernity that shape the landscape of this fascinating nation. We will also unravel the intricacies and nuances of customs and working dynamics that define dating in Japan. We are in the middle of it all. We are in Harajuku and specifically Takashita Street, where we're going to be seeing the trendiest and youngest Japanese people. And we're going to be talking to them about what dating in Japan is like. Because lots of people in Japan cannot speak English, we have our translator, Tiger, who's going to be coming with us so that we don't get lost in translation. You look so pretty.
Oh, thank you.
So, can you please tell me about dating in Japan?
気になる人と関係を深めるところ。なんだろう。でもやっぱり映画見に行ったりとか。なんかどこ行くみたいな。次どこ行くってなった時に、なんかどこでもいいよとかじゃなくて決めといてもらうの。ここ行きたいみたいな。
場所によるんじゃない？例えば東京だったら、なんかいろんなところになんかいろんな店があったりとか。そうですね。
We will also dig into the modern side of dating in Japan, the lure of digital matchmaking, online dating, and of course respectful courtship. Group outings, izakayas that characterize the romantic pursuits in dating. People here use Tinder, Bumble, dating apps as well.
友達とかでは使ってる人はよく耳にはしますね。
ありますと思います。
Do young people here want to get married?
ないですね。
No.
Why?
まあ、難しいことはやっぱそうですね、自分ちょっと結婚してないんでちょっとわからないんですけど、多分自分の中だと親かなと、お互いの親のがどう思うかとか、本当に紹介できる人なのかっていうところがやっぱ一番難しいかなと思います。
それこそ犬飼いました。
He just recently had a dog. So that's like
a dog. Okay, that's perfect. That's actually very good. Not bad at all. To get more insight about what dating in Japan is like, we're going to be talking to Ariana Ikeda, a therapist and life coach who's been in Japan most of her life. Ariana also owns a mental health facility called Retreat Tokyo. She's a mental health counselor, a child counselor, and a family therapist. Well, let's see what she has to say about what dating in Japan is like. Let's talk about just generally how people meet here. How do people meet?
This is the part where I feel like I might be too old to answer you. But back in my day,
back in my day, the good old days,
right? Which was only like 10 years ago. But let's see, pre-COVID anyway, I feel like drinking culture is really, really big in Japan.
I saw that. I mean, on a Friday night,
we have, I think something really unique to Japan is like hostess clubs and host clubs, right? Among the older generation, there's also like dei sites, kind of like matchmaking sites for people who are struggling to find a partner on their own.
Is it true that people in Japan are lonely?
There's definitely the fact that finances, right? A lot of couples, we can no longer live on a one-person income. So even if you decide to have kids, even if you decide to get married, chances are both parents, both adults in that relationship are going to have to work. But there's not a lot of support for having a child and being a working father. So if you were to both be working and have a kid, you have to put them in daycare, which is really expensive.
なんか僕の知り合いでも結婚したのに子供を産まないっていう人がいるんですけど、やっぱまあいろんな価値観がある中で、まあ例えば男同士で結婚とか、まあそうですね、女同士で結婚とかそういうなんだろう、子供が目的の結婚じゃなくて、まあいろんなこう多様性が今世界でこう、まあ、認められているんで、まあ、そこら辺はまあいい逆にいいことなんじゃない かなと思うんですけど、まあでも出生率が低いってことは、まあ日本のね、未来的にはあんま良くないことなんで、まあそこは、そうですね、まあ個人の自由なんで何とも言えないですけど、はい。まあもしね、埋めるんだったら、まあどんどん埋めた方がいいんじゃないかなと。
Yes, it is true that Japan, like most industrialized countries, is dealing with a little bit of a loneliness epidemic. But the Japanese, just like in everything they do, have found interesting and creative ways to try to combat this loneliness. Whether it's paying for some cuddles in a cuddle cafe, or it's paying to get your ego stroked in a maid cafe after a long day at work, or it's just good old adult anime. The list is endless.
Is it hard to meet someone in Japan?
自分に自信がない人が多いので、自信がないとやっぱり誰かに認められたいみたいな感じで、それ認められないと寂しいって思っちゃうので、
まあ本当に人によってまちまち。そうですよね。やっぱ寂しがり屋なんだけど、自分からは構ってっていうことができない人が多いと思うので、そういう、やっぱ承認欲求、自分を認めてほしいっていうのが、自分から言わないですけど、心の中にはあって、多分それをなんか言い出しにくいですね。
You can't talk about dating in Japan without talking about sex. Yes, and sex is a bit of a taboo topic in Japan, so is basic public display of affection. But yet, it seems everything evolves around it. The decline in sexual activity among young Japanese adults has been attributed to a variety of factors, including changing social norms, economic pressures, work-life balance, and an emphasis on individual pursuits.
I have not yet seen one person kiss publicly.
It's really not acceptable public behavior here.
Okay.
Even at home, people are not very touchy-feely.
Then what is the cultural way? What is the normal Japanese way of expressing that emotion, those emotions?
In my experience, what I tend to see is acts of service are very valued.
Okay.
Instead of saying I love you, you would do something to show that person you love them. You make them lunch, you bring them their favorite food, something like that. And these small things build up to show love, whereas the words I love you are not really said. And maybe even if they were said, they wouldn't hold as much meaning.
Is it weird? Is it strange to say I love you?
まあ日本人は多分少ないと思う。海外の方が多分もっと言ってると思います。そうですね。日本人の方が多分少ないと思います。愛してるっていう言葉は少ないとは思うんですけど、まあ長年やっぱ一緒にいると結構その以心伝心と言いますか、まあそういう感じでこう言わなくても伝わることとかたくさんやっぱ日本人結構あるんで、そういうところかなと思いますね。
私はそういうのしたい方感じ。海外の人とか羨ましいなとか。
Do they feel shy to be publicly affectionate?
手つなぐとかは気にしないですけど、もう他のなんかハグとかキスとかはちょっと。
What are some of the biggest challenges that you see that people have in their relationships?
Communication, for sure. I think this is in part the patriarchal society thing, but especially Japanese men are not very forthcoming with their emotions or even their thoughts.
Is that a cultural thing?
I think it is particularly strong in Japan, at least, because being stoic is valued. Right? Kind of not necessarily like samurai, right? But like to be stoic, to not be emotional, to be like the strong male figure is very valued. So I think that men don't feel comfortable expressing their feelings particularly, and oftentimes their thoughts.
Is it true that it's not common for Japanese men to express emotion?
なんか私国の方とかと付き合ってみて、なんか比べた時になんかレディーファーストとかそういう面では他の外国人の方ができるかなと思います。確かに隠したりする。
いや僕はもうなんか さん。
でも愛犬も気づいてくれないね。髪の毛切ったとか、ネイル変えたとか、全然気づいてくれないかも。
なんかちょっと自分で変えましたってところがあってもなんかそうなんだってね流されちゃう。
いいんじゃないみたいな。
ちょっと反応が薄いこともあって。
Japanese men have to notice when their women change their hair. It's like that.
Dating in Japan is definitely captivating. It is a mixture of ancient traditions and contemporary dynamics from the ancient culture of the geisha. And hold on a second. Yes, I know what you might be thinking. You might be thinking that geishas were sex workers. And it is not true. Contrary to what Hollywood has put out there, geishas were actually traditional, skilled entertainers that were trained in tea ceremonies and several instruments.
Even though, like I said, it's very progressive, people do adhere to traditional roles in marriage.
Yes. Japan is still a really patriarchal society.
Okay.
So, for example, the wage gap in Japan is huge between men and women. And very much in relationships, traditional roles are valued. Man needs to go out and make money. And like I almost never hear of Japanese families with a stay-at-home dad.
Women should stay at home and the man goes to work. What do they think?
養ってほしい気持ちはあるけど、でも自分の分は自分で稼ぐ。でもどうなんだろうな。自由に使えるお金も欲しいから。使えるお金欲しい気はしたい。
いや、お互いの家事はお互い家事を分担して仕事もお互いが頑張ってる。
Then who talks to you first? No, bro. It's good. It's good. You did it very good. Yeah, women have to take initiative and talk to the men first. How about the divorce rate? The divorce rate here is really low. I mean, not really low, but in comparison to some European countries, and I think even America, I mean, it's rated at 35.5%. That's low.
Yeah.
And do you think it's because of these factors that you just...
I do. I think a lot of it is the laws. Another part of it is that although the mother is most likely to get custody in a normal situation, there's not a lot of single mother support. So it's really, really difficult to be a single mother in Japan. And I think that has a lot to do with the low divorce rate. Women would rather put up with, you know, maybe living with someone they don't necessarily love anymore, or not so healthy relationship, rather than lose the support, the financial support that they have, the support of their husband's family, and access to their kids. Family laws are a bit archaic, I want to say, in Japan. Not really fair if you're not married between mother and father as far as custody goes and things like that. There's no such thing as joint custody here.
Can you please elaborate?
Yeah, if you're married, of course both parents have custody of the child. But if you get divorced, custody must be assigned to one parent. And what happens a lot of times in Japan is that after a divorce, the parent that gets custody takes the children and disappears. And they don't see the other parent. They just become not part of their life anymore.
まあ日本人大切にするというか、まあ一度決めた奥さんを大切にするっていう気持ちがあるからこそ一番最初の結婚とかが、あると思うんで、まあそうですね、愛情が深いっていうのはやっぱ日本人のいい特徴かなとは思いますね。
僕の親は離婚してです。はい。でもまあどうなんですかね。ずっと一緒にいすぎても喧嘩みたいな感じで、まあ適度な距離感がいいんじゃないですか。
There's plenty to do if you want to go on a date in Japan. And even if you want to go out and eat, you will never be disappointed, because the food is good. And no matter how old you are, you can enjoy going gaming. You can take your date, and even if you're 80 years old, you can get jiggy with it on your dating. And speaking about getting jiggy with it, you can be guaranteed that because of these toilets in Japan, everybody is clean, if you know what I mean.
Can you explain to me a manga and why the men like to see these women that don't look necessarily Japanese in manga?
夢を見たいんじゃないですか。They wanna see the dream.
They want to see their
They
dream.
wanna be in the dream.
理想の世界だから。
でもその 時間を埋めるっていうか、自分の楽しいことを見つける上で、やっぱ漫画とかアニメとかっていうのはやっぱ必要なものだと思います。なるとは思います。はい。
People who feel different, who feel like the nail sticking up, which, you know, all of us do at some point. They feel they can't connect maybe to their peers in that way. So they turn to fantasy. I think for a lot of people, they can not only relate to the characters, but kind of put themselves in that world, especially with all of the visuals. Even though they're different, especially a lot of the manga characters, they're different too, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Something is different about them. Yes, there's something special about them.
Yeah.
And so they see that and they connect with that. And they can see, maybe part of it is seeing hope.
What are the difficult things about dating in Japan?
なんかスマホいじってるのはダメ。イギリスに。で会った時になんか可愛いとかちょっと見てみたいな。でくるとなんか海外の方から見ると多分日本って D ファーストが少ないから。ちょっと揉める方がちょこ。それこそねお会計がどっちが払う。
相手に気を使って自分の思ってることとかをちょっとあまり言い出せないのかなとか、ちょっと逆に嫌われたくないから逆に気を使いすぎて自分を苦しめているんじゃないかなって思ったりはします。
Even in non-romantic relationships in Japan, there's something called like kukiyoyomu. That means like reading the atmosphere. So you're expected to be able to see the non-verbal signals that the other person is giving you and know what they want and know what they need. And this creates miscommunication even between Japanese who are used to this form of communication.
What's very, very good about dating in Japan?
なんか普通になんか荷物持つよとか、なんか小さい気配りができるのが日本人男性のいいとこなんじゃないかな。写真いっぱい撮ってくれるし、SNS も撮ってくれたりとか。
あんまり日本ってそういう付き合ったりとかそういうのにそこまで外ではオープンじゃないから、なんていうか、オープンじゃないからこその、なんていうか付き合ってる時の特別感みたいなのは多分日本人はあったり。
そうですね。やっぱ気遣いがちゃんとしてて、なんか些細ななんか察して物事を例えば洗濯物しといてくれるだとか、ご飯準備しといてくれるとか言わずにも自然としてほしいことを察知してくれる。
What are the positives? What are the good things about dating in Japan, about the Japanese culture from your perspective?
As a foreigner dating in Japan, I guess coming from the States especially, it's very nice how relatively safe Japan is. You know, in America, I would never dream of going on a date with someone from Tinder. I know people do, but that would scare me.
You'd be like, let me find out if I have his number, his address. Can I give my friends the number?
Exactly. Put some GPS on me and give it to my
find my iPhone. Exactly.
Yeah, whereas in Japan, it's not that dire. And people in general tend to be, I want to say, a bit more respectful. In America, it's ladies first, you know, I'm going to pay for dinner. This is what's seen as, you know, chivalrous. In Japan, it's not quite the same. The rules aren't the same. But there's still this level of chivalry. Is that a word? Chivalry?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that feels respectful, feels safe. They might not hold the door open for me or something, but when we're walking on the street, usually a man will walk on the roadside and keep me on the inside, right? Because to protect you. In Japan, I felt like that was also more acceptable. There wasn't such a pressure to immediately be intimate with someone. It was okay to talk, have some dates at, you know, a restaurant first, something more traditional, before moving on to that stage.
Okay, that's actually pretty good.
So I hope you enjoyed this episode of Dating Around the World Japan. We got the chance to talk to a therapist, a psychologist, who explained to us the Japanese psychology and what dating is like in this country. And we also got the amazing opportunity to talk to some local people. The Japanese people got to tell us themselves what dating in Japan is like, what's difficult about dating in Japan, and what's so amazing about this beautiful country. So join me next time on another episode of Dating Around the World.